checklist. And when they get down to the bottom of that, then you're going to see them release Unity. Unity doesn't go far, doesn't drop very far. Eve pulls away, and then Unity lights the rocket. That rocket that will carry them up towards 50,000 feet at Mach 3. We mentioned this earlier, but this is a hybrid motor. It uses both solid and liquid propellants. And when they get to altitude, they're going to have only about 3 to 4 minutes of being weightless. And then candidly, because of the fact that some of these folks have never, Richard's never been in space before, the 2 of the 3 passengers have never been in space before, I wonder whether that's going to be so disorienting for the moment that they're going to be able to think about their tasks that have been assigned to them. I think they're going to be so overwhelmed with just the idea, oh my goodness gracious, I'm in, very low orbit.
Another sunny day in New Mexico.
When does it start? Any minute now.
Dead silent. Dead silent. Silent here on the ground. They're going to be greeted by a big performance here on the ground.
Greetings, planet Earth, and welcome to Spaceport America, the beautiful home of Virgin Galactic in Sierra County, New Mexico, and an historic day. Over the next few hours, you'll see live coverage of today's space flight, unprecedented access inside the spacecraft, and a live performance of a brand new song by multi-platinum artist Khalid.
They've done redesigns.
Entrepreneur, philanthropist, iconoclast, activist, adventurer, billionaire, goatee host organism. Later today, Richard Branson and his crew will return to Earth as astronauts. Hello, everyone. I'm Stephen Colbert. Thank you for joining us. Earlier this morning, Richard Branson and his crew arrived at Spaceport America, ready to embark on a life-changing journey. When Richard called me and asked me if I'd like to host today's live stream, I said, "Who is this? And how did you get my number?" Then he said who it was, explained today's flight test mission, and I said, yes, I would be honored to host your launch. After all, I've known Richard for years. I've never been to his private island, but that's okay. That's how close we are. Friends don't have to ask friends to their private island, evidently. And to be fair, it might be because I've spent most of our friendship making fun of him on TV. Long-time viewers of this broadcast know that I have an ongoing feud with Sir Richard Branson, Virgin CEO and adult of the corn, Richard Branson. Sir Big Baby here, having what some critics have called facial hair. That little tree sloth clinging to your chin. The grinning goat man. A cross between David Bowie and Pam, the goat god.
Here's that alignment.
Obviously, I said all of that in character on a comedy show. So, Richard, I want you to know, as myself, sincerely, I meant every word. But there is one thing Richard and I do have in common, a deep, lifelong passion for space exploration. That's why Richard founded Virgin Galactic in 2004 with the dream of sending private citizens into space. Now, to do that, he needed to build every part of a whole new industry. He had to construct a spacecraft capable of the journey. Then, to launch these space planes, he had to help create the world's first commercial spaceport. And most importantly, he had to find the people capable of turning his dream into a reality, as well as people brave enough to get on a spaceship built by the guy who launched a soda this awful. Seriously, he lost money selling sugar water. All aboard! Today marks the culmination of Branson's dream. He and his crew will set off on a supersonic voyage in which they'll achieve a maximum velocity of more than Mach 3.5 and ultimately enter zero gravity. Imagine staring out the window onto the vast expanse of space and seeing Earth below, our beautiful blue planet staring back at you. It really puts all of humanity into perspective.
flight. Just 7 weeks ago, Virgin Galactic completed the first ever human spaceflight from the great state of New Mexico, and today our founder and his crew will become some of the very few people to have experienced space travel. Let's take a look at how they arrived to Spaceport America.
You're late. Come on, get suited up. Let's go.
Open sesame.
Good morning, Unity 22. Welcome to Spaceport. Please sign in to the astronaut logbook.
The name's Branson. Sir Richard Branson. Astronaut 001. License to thrill.
Astronaut 002, Beth Moses.
Astronaut 003, Colin Bennett.
What a beautiful pack. Sarisha.
Astronaut 004, Sarisha Bedla.
And she's astronaut 004.
Congratulations, Unity 22. You are officially registered for space.
See you up there.
Flight, but I think it's so significant professionally, technically, but personally for the people on board.
Absolutely, and you mentioned opening up that doorway. Kelly, you're one of the people that's going to be going through that doorway soon. We are so thrilled to have you here to get a preview of what you're going to experience on a Virgin Galactic mission in the not too distant future. You've got to be getting pretty excited, right?
Incredibly excited. You know, this is an emotional day, right? Those doors are opening for the next generation of astronauts. I feel like we have front row seats to the final frontier today, and I'm so excited to get a taste of what I'm going to experience soon.
Definitely. Well, I'm so thrilled to have you here. And you too, Chris. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this. Let's take a look at what we've got in store for the live stream. So while Mothership Eve is transporting Spaceship Unity to the launch point, we'll check in with the crew and the preparations that went into today's flight. We'll also share some perspective on the Virgin Galactic mission, so who we are, what we do, and our vision for commercial space travel in the 21st century. Next, we'll give you a guided tour through the Virgin Galactic experience, showing you what our astronauts will see and do throughout their stay, both on the ground and on their life-changing journey into space. Once we've reached the launch altitude and location, we'll see the moment when Spaceship Unity is released from Mothership Eve and accelerates into space, all coming to you live. So there's some incredible energy building here at Spaceport, and we're happy to have some special guests on site taking in this experience. My co-host, Kevin Prieto, a procurement specialist here at Virgin Galactic, is downstairs right now. Kevin, what's the vibe like down there?
Thanks, Veronica. I am currently here at Spaceport America's hangar floor, where the ships usually reside, but as you just saw, they're on their way to space. Right behind me, I have the rocket motors we use for launch. And to my left, a very important person, CEO of Virgin Galactic, Michael Cole-Glazer. Michael, good to see you.
It's great to be here, Kevin.
Michael, I have one question for you, and that is, what does today mean?
Kevin, this is a landmark moment for Virgin Galactic. It's a landmark moment for the new commercial space industry. And it certainly is a landmark moment for our founder, Sir Richard Branson.
who right now is showing that when you have the fortitude to follow your dream, you can make a hugely profound impact on the world. It's a historic moment because today we are endeavoring to open access to space for all. Can you imagine? Being up there and looking back down has to be one of the most amazing feelings, and we can't wait for more people to experience it. I have to say how proud I am, Kevin, to have all my friends and colleagues who are today's crew representing the entire company. They're opening the door for the astronauts of tomorrow. We're thrilled to be here today and so excited to have all of you watching to be sharing this moment with us.
It sure really is a historical moment for us, and I'm excited to be here. I'm going to be out on the street, so I'll
make space itself more accessible and approachable.
It's to make space itself more accessible and approachable.
Line 3. Hello.
Hi.
Have you ever thought about going into space, Richard?
The moon landing was a catalytic moment for me. Top of the moon. I really did think that myself and many other young people would one day be able to go into space. I've waited and I waited and waited for that opportunity, and it never came. They got me thinking. I went to the registry office and I registered the name Virgin Galactic Airways.
It's a brilliant innovation story. The origins of spaceflight at the time, it was big government. The X Prize was a chance to turn that into a much more personal spaceflight experience.
Spaceship One claimed the X Prize and proved the dream was possible. This was the first private venture to go to space, return safely, and do it again just 2 weeks later.
And then from there, we just started expanding. We knew we wanted a bigger system. We wanted something that you could float about the cabin and actually experience zero gravity.
Virgin Galactic offers the first real platform where we can actually open it up to make space for all of us.
We build on the shoulders of giants, but we want to be that first baseline for Earth and actually deliver on that promise.
We are changing the way humanity views space. We've taken the impossible and we're making it inevitable.
I always want to celebrate the team on this. You need heart. You need the best minds. You need the best humans to work on programs like this.
The sky's no longer the limit for us.
This is an inflection point in human history.
2 astronauts on a tiny television inspired a kid from England. Imagine what greatness can come from a generation seeing Earth from space.
You're seeing your home planet. It's a real connection with the Earth. It grounds you and it feels timeless.
I think in the same way that I was inspired by the moon landing, I really hope that there will be millions of kids all over the world who will be captivated and inspired about the possibility of them going to space one day.
Into space, Richard?
I'd love to go into space, and I think there could be nothing nicer. So, if you're building a spacecraft, I'd love to come with you on it.
Truly inspirational, and right now all of that inspiration is up in the sky as the Virgin Galactic spaceflight mission makes its way towards the launch point. Let's take a look at these onboard camera footages now and see what we've got here.
Hey guys,
we are already at 40,000 feet. You can already see the incredible view and the sky starting to darken there. This is already higher than what most regular commercial airliners will travel at. So I'm sure all of our astronauts are taking in that view already and getting really excited and prepared for the mission. Now, Kelly, we hope to connect live with Richard throughout the show here. What would be going through your mind if you were on board with him right now?
Gosh, you know, aside from the overwhelming excitement, right, I think it would just be a sense of awe. The hard work and the vision that it took to get to today, and the magnitude of what it means for the next generation of humans who are going to experience the wonder of spaceflight.
Absolutely. I mean, this is certainly the dawn of a new space age. And Mothership Eve is currently ascending still. We're already over 40,000 feet. Our target launch altitude for today is 45,000 feet. But in addition to that launch altitude, we also have a designated release point within the airspace. So while you may see us get to altitude rather quickly, we'll continue to complete our flight path until we get to that designated launch point. So everything's looking really good. Again, they're over 40,000 feet now. And just a beautiful view you get there already. I imagine they're just getting really excited for their upcoming space flight. So speaking of the crew on board, let's take a look at the folks in flight today. They're some of the most experienced pilots in the world, and there are very few flying machines on Earth or off Earth that these professionals haven't flown. In fact, 4 of our pilots are among the very few in history who can lay claim to the title of astronaut. And 2 of them are heading to space again today. Let's meet the crew now. We'll begin with the folks who are supporting today's flight in the chase plane, giving us visuals on the spaceflight system while airborne. Pilot in command of our chase plane today is Jamil Janjua. He's completed over 4,000 flying hours in 48 different vehicles throughout his career, which spans over 20 years in the Royal Canadian Air Force. Joining Jamil is Patrick Moran, who served as a pilot in the Marine Corps for 20 years, where he operated as a test pilot and a test pilot school instructor.
He and 2 Spaceship Unity space flights. He's been flying for 37 years and is the first person to enter space from 3 different states. CJ's joined by Kelly Latimer in the right seat, who's logged more than 6,700 hours in her 32-year flying career. And Kelly is also a pilot with Virgin Orbit, our sister space company, and she just flew their successful launch the other week. Piloting Spaceship Unity today, we have our chief pilot and astronaut, Dave Mackay. Dave's been with Virgin Companies for over 25 years now and has more than 14,000 hours of flight time to his credit. Just incredible, and spanning no fewer than 140 different types of aircraft. With Dave is astronaut Mike Masucci. Mike recently passed more than 10,000 hours of logged flight in a career that's put him in the cockpit of more than 80 different types of aircraft, including the U-2 and, of course, our very own Spaceship Unity. As you can see, our passengers today will be flown to space by some of the most accomplished and experienced pilots in the world. And in the cabin of Spaceship Unity today, there are 4 mission specialists. Let's hear some more about them now.
Astronaut 004, Sirisha Bandla. I'll be testing the researcher experience. Virgin Galactic is opening up the opportunity to go to space for everyone. This is a whole new era to get people from different backgrounds, different geographies, different communities into space. And it's giving researchers the opportunity to fly with their payloads. And that is unheard of. They can take the work that they've been doing on Earth to space. And I'm so excited to see where the community takes it in the future.
Astronaut 003, Colin Bennett. I'll be evaluating cabin procedures during boost and weightlessness. When I was younger, I assumed that space was only available to a very select few. I had no idea myself that I would ever be in a position to go to space, but here I am. And how awesome it's going to be to be a part of the journey of opening this up to hundreds and then thousands of more people in the future.
Astronaut 002, Beth Moses. I'll be spaceship cabin lead and test director. I cannot remember not dreaming of going to space. There's the little tiny kid looking up at the stars, the little girl making model rockets. It was part of my childhood. I think it's a very natural, human, innate curiosity. We're all explorers and adventurers, so I really don't remember an age or a moment where I discovered space. I just always remember dreaming of going to space.
Astronaut 001, Richard Branson. I'll be evaluating the customer spaceflight experience.
Astronaut Astronaut 001. What a title to have. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited to hear who gets the spot of 007 as well. So let's hear more about the man who has the license to thrill.
Dear Mum, you always told me to reach for the stars. Well, I took my own winding road, but I always knew to follow your lead. You always pushed us to our limits. When I was a child, you threw me out of the car miles from our house and urged me to find my own way home. You let me jump into a river to sink or swim. You and Dad taught me and my sisters independence and loved us with fierceness and tenderness. You were always an adventurer. You took glider lessons dressed as a boy, enlisted during World War II, toured Germany as a ballet dancer after the war. You flew treacherous routes as intrepid cabin crew for startup airlines. You took us into the great unknown on family holidays. You treated every day as a chance to explore. Before the word existed, you were always an entrepreneur. You helped make ends meet by creating your own small businesses. You showed me how to grow a company, how to treat people, how to be creative, how to balance work and play, how to live. You were always a romantic. You and Dad showed Joan and me the way to build a life filled with humor and heart, hope and humility, honesty and happiness. You showed us the value of kindness, the magic of laughter, the beauty of music, and the joy of family. You were always my guiding light at Virgin Galactic. You shared with me that the day we named our mothership VMS Eve was one of your happiest. You always knew Eve would start my journey to space one day, just as I always knew you would do the impossible for me. Well, Mum, our mothership, which carries your name, will carry the next generation of dreamers into space. You were always a dreamer. You urged me to strive for every opportunity I saw. You told me to chase my wildest fantasies and to live life to the full. Well, the brave may not live forever, but the cautious do not live at all. How you lived, how you loved, and how you are missed. Dad always said, "Isn't life wonderful?" And you both showed us it was. Always.
Such a beautiful letter. Eve Branson really was an inspiration to all of us here at Virgin Galactic. If you're just now tuning in, my name is Veronica McGowan. I'm a structures operations engineer here at Virgin Galactic. Alongside me is astronaut Chris Hadfield and future astronaut Kelly Girardi. So great to have you guys here. Earlier today, we saw Richard and his crew make their way down to the astronaut walkway at Spaceport America, seeing their families off before they were escorted to our spaceflight system, where final inspections and preparations were made before takeoff. They were driven to the runway in our fleet of Land Rovers, and Land Rover is our exclusive automotive partner, and they help with day-to-day operations. And in fact, we have a bespoke vehicle that we designed with them called the Astronaut Edition. And this is exclusively available to Virgin Galactic future astronauts, and it's the one that drove Richard to Spaceship Unity this morning. So we're delighted to have Land Rover as a part of the team. And right now, our crew are on their way to space. Let's check in on them via our onboard camera footage. Wow, look at that view already, and you can see some contrails. Chris, how do you think the crew will be feeling right about now?
So many different things at once. They're just about leveled off at altitude, right up at 46,000 feet. But inside their bodies, they've got like this tug of war going on because they're focused. Like there's no more focused, you know, the 4 in the back and the 2 in the front, really focused. But at the same time, there's this like rising excitement that you can feel like a thermometer going up inside your own body. But I remember at the time, what I really wanted to do was go back to my 9-year-old self and just run around the cockpit and scream and wave my hands because it's just so exciting and fun. They're focused, they're professional, they're doing their job, but it's just a magnificent moment as we get ready for ignition.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's certainly a mixture of excitement and anticipation with our crew today, but they will all be focused on the task at hand, as you said, and preparing themselves to run through their individual test points. And on the subject of testing, today's spaceflight is an opportunity for us to evaluate our cabin experience. It's the environment where our passengers will cross the 50-mile border defined by NASA.
That's where the innovations of Virgin Galactic come in.
What does spaceflight with Virgin Galactic entail? Well, it has a unique combination of revolutionary design innovations that make it like no other vehicle that has ever gone before. Firstly, air launch. Most rockets you see make a loud and bumpy vertical launch from the ground. To launch from the ground requires huge amounts of energy to lift the vehicle from a static start and to propel it through the thickest parts of the Earth's atmosphere. Instead, Virgin Galactic spaceflight starts with a smooth runway takeoff, not dissimilar to a conventional commercial airliner. The spaceship, attached to a mothership, gracefully ascends to the launch altitude of around 50,000 feet, bypassing the thickest parts of the Earth's atmosphere, making it far more energy efficient and far more comfortable for the passengers inside. When the vehicles have reached the launch altitude and location, Mission Control provides clearance for release.
Release, release, release.
The pilots activate the launch and set spaceship free. Within seconds, the rocket motor ignites as the vehicle starts its rapid ascent toward the stars. During this awe-inspiring journey, the spaceship reaches speeds of up to 3 times the speed of sound. And out the window, passengers will watch the color change from blue through indigo, and then to the iconic inky black as they soar into space. Once the rocket motor shuts down, passengers will unbuckle their seatbelts and float effortlessly around the cabin, enjoying the childlike freedom of zero gravity. The cabin becomes a spacious, 3-dimensional playground as passengers experience space firsthand, helmet-free. The ship has an incredible 17 windows, and passengers won't be able to resist being drawn towards the undeniable, euphoric beauty that lies beneath, as planet Earth looks right back at them in all her majesty. Whilst enjoying weightlessness and the life-changing view, the vehicle is preparing itself for re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere, utilizing the second design innovation of Virgin Galactic's space system, the Feather.
There's FPGs.
Re-entry is arguably the most challenging aspect of space travel and has largely been approached in 2 ways, with winged vehicles or with capsule spacecraft. The revolutionary aspect of Virgin Galactic Feather technology is that it enables the vehicle to act like a winged vehicle when it is advantageous to be a winged vehicle, and then behave as a capsule when a capsule design gives you the advantage. On the way to space, the spaceship folds in half, with the booms moving upward to a 60-degree position as our pilots put the vehicle into an elegant backflip. This points the windows straight back towards Earth, offering passengers astounding and unobstructed views. This maneuver also allows the vehicle to behave like a capsule on re-entry, spreading the friction heat generated from re-entering the Earth's atmosphere across the entire underside of the spaceship, and aerodynamically enabling it to reorient itself from any position. Once the ship has slowed down and starts to travel through the thicker parts of the Earth's atmosphere, where a winged vehicle is advantageous for maneuverability, the booms come back down from their feather position, and the spaceship gently glides back home safely and smoothly, ensuring a thrilling yet comfortable ride for those on board, and landing on the same runway it took off from. A truly extraordinary design, fit for an out-of-this-world experience.
To experience zero-G and see our fragile planet floating in the depths of space. I would go up in a minute if my wife would let me. How about you, Veronica?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that would be an offer too good to refuse. Now, Chris, I'm sure you'd agree that the experience that Richard is having right now is probably a lot more comfortable than your launches.
Yeah, I had a chance to fly as part of the space shuttle crew twice, and then I flew on the Russian ship as the pilot once. And it's a little capsule, like they were talking about winged and capsule vehicles. But both of them needed a rocket to get them up above the atmosphere. And the beauty of what Sir Richard and his crew are doing now is that they've had the mothership Eve to carry them gently up. So yeah, they're much more comfortable than I was at this stage, getting ready for the second engine and the rockets to ignite there.
Yeah, I can imagine. And Kelly, now I know you've experienced zero-G already in some parabolic flights. Your space flight will surely be an extension, right, of that zero-G time. What are you most looking forward to in terms of conducting experiments in that environment?
Yeah, exactly. Like Veronica said, I've done a number of parabolic research.
That feed would suggest that they are still, in fact, attached. It will be any minute. Now, when they do detach, then Branson and the others on board, 5 others on board, including the 2 pilots, will rocket at a very accelerated Mach 3, 2,300 miles per hour, and that's 3.5 Gs, by the way, on their way to that altitude you mentioned. The bottom line here is that they're trying to achieve that goal of 50 miles to 56 miles above the Earth, and that would put them very comfortably in what NASA and the military calls the edge of space, or into space. As you know, there's been kind of a back and forth. Some on the Bezos team have suggested that's not quite high enough for space, that really Bezos' Blue Origin will go to space and Branson won't be. It doesn't really matter. You're going to be at about 3 to 4 minutes of weightlessness. The FAA and NASA acknowledge that it's in fact space. So that's what we're waiting for right now. It all comes down to this right here as we await this moment when it detaches and then rockets there to the edge of space.
Tom, when we talk about what we're about to see as they rocket to the edge of space, we've got a graphic that shows the flight path, and I think the best way to describe it for the layman is like being on a roller coaster at Six Flags. You've got a steep climb, you come over the apogee, and then we're going straight down. What does that feel like for the people on board?
So it's that apogee, it's that curve at the top, right, where you will experience those 3 to 4 minutes of weightlessness. I've had the experience to, in fact, do a weightless flight with these parabolic flights in which you get 20 seconds of weightlessness, more or less. This is going to be 3 to 4 minutes. And each of these astronauts have been assigned a task, these civilian astronauts, assigned a task to perform. Guys, I'm watching it right now. Let's watch this feed right now. A critical moment, I think, is approaching. We are still, they have not yet detached.
They're communicating with each other in the vehicles and with the Mission Control Center throughout each check here. You know, these days, more and more systems are becoming automated, especially in aircraft and spacecraft. And what's really exciting about the Virgin Galactic spaceflight system is that our crew truly are hands-on with the piloting throughout the flight.
So, Tom, as we look at this video, you can see the altitude.
Pilots to talk about detaching.
I'm sure they are just getting incredibly excited.
Yep, 46,000 feet. That's at about the level where we expect them to detach. You're going to hear the pilots talk about going through a checklist before they drop. They're going to say L10, L9, L8, all the way down to L1, and that's at the point where they, in fact, detach and drop. Now we're just now hearing 5 minutes away from detachment. This has been a little bit of a moving target because we don't have a typical NASA mission control, which is giving us, minute or second-by-second updates. We're kind of flying by the seat of our pants. But take a look inside the spaceship as they prepare to detach. Probably now 4.5 minutes away or so at an altitude in excess of 46,000 feet. Willie?
Yeah, they've reached that cruising altitude they talked about, but they're hitting, as you say, a spot ahead of them. And to orient our viewers, Tom, if you look, that is the mothership Eve. Those are the contrails coming off the back. And attached effectively underneath the ship is the VSS Unity. I note, looking at these live pictures inside the cabin, Tom, how calm everybody looks. Looks like they're catching the shuttle from D.C. to LaGuardia. Really something to watch.
Spectacular view. I just heard them say we've now gone through L4, so that means they've already gone from the number 10 on the checklist down to 4, and now seeking clearance for release. As you can see, they're at 46,000 feet. So we're literally playing this by ear, guys. None of us have ever seen this before with passengers on board. So we're going to listen in here to Virgin Galactic's narration and Virgin Galactic's mission control here.
Across various departments and disciplines within the company, and they're verifying checks with the crew today every step of the way. All right, and I've just heard from MCC that our L-4 checks are complete. We are roughly 3 minutes out from release at this point. It's getting really exciting. I don't know about you all, but I can feel the anticipation building just watching the screen and looking at their faces. Look at that, they've already got big smiles on. And we have just received clearance for release on time from Mission Control Center. So we are 2 minutes and 30 seconds out.
As we listen in, let's bring in Mike Massimino. He's a former NASA astronaut, the current senior advisor for space programs at the Intrepid Sea, Air and Space Museum in New York. And Ron Garan, also a former NASA astronaut who logged more than 179 days in space over his career. Gentlemen, good morning to you both. It's so great to have you with us. Mike, let me begin with you. As Tom said, this is not something we've seen before, even those of you who have been to orbital space. What do you make of what you've seen so far this morning?
Well, Willie, thanks for having me. It's a pretty exciting day. I think this really marks a time where we've gone from governments going into space to a vehicle that has been designed to bring customers, researchers, tourists, people who want to enjoy the experience into space. So it's a very historic day. A lot of work has gone into this. A lot of work needs to be done during the flight, but it's a very, very exciting day for everyone involved.
Colonel Garan, you've been to the International Space Station a couple times, 4 spacewalks under your belt. What do you imagine these passengers are feeling and going through right now?
Well, it's probably a mixed bag. I mean, there's certainly excitement, but there's also probably some butterflies in there. And I think they all are well aware this is a life-changing moment for them, and hopefully they're savoring it.
And what do you think, Colonel, is the feeling that they're about to experience? This is sort of the calm before the moment when that VSS Unity spacecraft separates from the mothership and begins that rocket ride up to the apogee and then back down. It'll happen very quickly. What is that sensation? There aren't many people on Earth who can speak to it, and you're one of them.
Yeah, I think they're going to experience a lot of G-force with the acceleration. They're going to be going really fast, and they're going to get there really fast, and then they're going to go from being pushed back into their seat from that force to being weightless instantly when the engine kicks off, and that's going to be really exciting because that's the moment where they realize that their dream had just come true, that they're weightless, they're in space, and the most amazing thing is going to be that view out the window when they see the curvature of the Earth. They're going to watch the sky turn from blue to black. They're going to see the thinness of the atmosphere. It's going to be absolutely incredible.
Colonel, we're about to see the separation. Tom Costello, I want to go back to you. We are seconds away from the moment here. Let's watch.
Release, release, release right now.
Rocket motor burn. There's Mach 1 trimming now. trim complete. Unity is pointed directly up and heading to space. Things are looking great. We are 25 seconds into the burn now, approaching Mach 2. 30 seconds, Mach 2. Everything's looking really good and stable. 40 seconds. 45 seconds. 50 seconds, approaching Mach 3. There's Mach 3. And 60 seconds, and that is a full duration burn, folks. We are headed to space. And the passengers in the back have been cleared to unstrap. Our predicted apogee is 279,000 feet and climbing. The pilots are now unlocking the feather, and
so this is it. This is where we should be experiencing, or they should be experiencing, weightlessness for about 3 to 4 minutes. And we expect we're going to have a live shot from within that spaceship. And now they're going to start feathering the wings back so that they can begin the very slow process of re-entering. And as we've said, you know, this is a critical moment as they enjoy those few moments of apogee, of weightlessness.
As soon as we cross the boundary to space, we'll hear a word from our founder, Sir Richard Branson.
Once they cross the boundary to space, Richard Branson will be speaking, and we expect him to make some sort of a major announcement from space. And I'm listening with you to Virgin Mission Control. Lots of applause on the ground here because this is what they have been working on for 17 years, building to this moment. And the hope is that paying passengers will be coming along very soon.
Receiving the audio over the broadcast, but I know Richard is saying something inspirational.
Tom, as we wait for the images from inside the spacecraft of that weightlessness, I think back to the interview you did with Richard Branson where he said, I've been dreaming about this day since I was a kid. When I watched Americans walk on the moon on July 20th, 1969, I started to dream of this moment.
Remember the day, remember where you are.
Yeah, and I think they just said 280,000 feet right now. You know, it's funny, Willie, that's one of my earliest memories. I was 6 years old, and my dad woke me up at 11 o'clock at night and said, don't forget this moment, the astronauts are walking on the moon. Interesting that the same impression, in fact, on Richard Branson, with really, I think, everybody who was watching from planet Earth on that day. And now this is the culmination of his dreams, of now taking his own space flight, not to the space station, not to the moon, but to an altitude of 56 miles. Here we go. We got some images from inside.
There are the pictures.
And again, we're waiting to hear what Richard Branson has to say. We've been led to believe some sort of a major announcement, assuming the technology works and they can get the live shot out of there.
Tom, we've been using the term feathering here.
Okay, they're heading
as Unity climbs and lands. What does that mean exactly? What are we watching here?
Well, the bottom line here is that they have folded those, you know, I may even defer to the expert in terms of Mike, because you've got a pilot right there and an astronaut in terms of how this works, because it's a delicate procedure as they feather the wings back for re-entry.
Mike Massimino, what does that mean exactly to feather as they return here and land shortly on a runway in New Mexico?
Yeah, it's really interesting technology that they're using here. They're kind of combining the aspects of a capsule reentry, which is fairly safe, so they can feather those the wings so that they kind of form in line with the spacecraft, so that it can enter and take the heat of reentry in the best way, and then they can deploy them again for the landing. So it's kind of combining what we've seen before with a capsule entry, along with like a space shuttle or glider landing on a runway. So pretty innovative and a cool way to do it.
Colonel Guerin, you flew F-16s in the United States Air Force.
Yeah, I did, and you know, Mike really explained that well. The whole tail boom changes in configuration, so they're getting the best of both worlds: the best of the aerodynamics of a capsule and the aerodynamics of an aircraft.
Tom, go ahead, jump in.
Pardon me, I was just going to make the point. This is essentially a glider coming back, not unlike the space shuttle. So they've got a massive runway here in New Mexico that they can come right back to. Not much in the way of a go-around opportunity here, so they got to come in and hit the landing right on the money. As we've said before, they've got a veteran chief pilot who's in charge, Dave McKay, a veteran of the Royal Air Force, and he's been a Virgin test pilot for years. Really a spectacular view, and look at that, the curvature of the Earth, which your guests have seen firsthand, but now typical Americans, Virgin employees, but typical Americans have been able to see this as well, experience it firsthand, and that's really the point here. And now we're told that the wings are in fact locked. So now, in fact, it is a glider inbound in the glider formation and allowing them to come right into the runway here at Spaceport America. About 30 miles or so from Truth or Consequences, we should tell you.
Passengers have taken their seats again. They're strapped in. Let's bring in Stephanie Ruhle, NBC News senior business correspondent, looking at this space race among billionaires. Steph, this is a man, Richard Branson, who tried to circle the globe in a hot air balloon. That was an ill-fated trip. Crossed the Atlantic once and not twice, but got there on his second trip, crossing the Atlantic. This, I guess, the next frontier for Richard Branson.
Without a doubt, Willie, he's broken records for kiteboarding. Richard Branson is a true daredevil. But whether you're talking about Richard Branson or Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, think about these billionaires who are going after this space, the final frontier. They've achieved all sorts of success, betting on themselves and their own brands. If there's one thing Richard Branson is absolutely known for and fantastic at, it's branding. And look at today. You saw that launch, boom, Virgin Galactic. We're watching this on his own network. And this really is going to be the first push into commercial space travel. And if that's where we're going, there will be room for a Jeff Bezos or a Richard Branson. So you mentioned it earlier, sort of this bickering. Is Richard Branson actually making it into space? The Blue Origin team says no, they aren't. But from a global perspective, for the millions of people, Willie, who are home watching this, he is absolutely in outer space. And Richard Branson is pursuing and fulfilling his dream to be the first one out there.
Yeah, Steph, there was a picture, by the way, posted this morning by Richard Branson having breakfast with none other than Elon Musk before he left to take his flight. Steph, the question we were debating earlier on Sunday today is this really another step forward? Is this the step toward commercial space travel, which so far at this moment goes for $250,000 a pop for a seat on one of these spacecrafts? Are they bringing this to the people, or are these just sort of joyrides for these billionaires?
Well, the plan is to bring this to the people, but let's think about what people. It's the richest of the rich people. And you and I also know, Willie, over the last 10 years, the richest people in the world have gotten a whole lot richer, so they can certainly afford it. And these guys are now betting on themselves and their space.
Steph, I'm going to interrupt you. Richard Branson speaking. Let's listen.
And now I'm looking down at a beautiful spaceport. Congratulations to everybody for creating such a beautiful, beautiful place. Congratulations to all our wonderful team at Virgin Galactic for 17 years of hard work to get us this far.
All right, so I'm so
Richard
happy
Branson saying space is a beautiful place, thanking everyone who made that mission possible, admiring the view outside of VSS Unity. Steph, I'll let you pick it back up.
We are so excited for them to land.
You know, luxury and extreme travel is what Richard Branson does by profession. Without a doubt, the goal here is how do we now move this into commercial, obviously very high-end travel. If this trip is successful and Jeff Bezos' mission is successful, clearly both of them would like to make the next venture to be in making this a commercial mission. For Richard Branson, his mission is publicly funded. He's got all sorts of partners here. Jeff Bezos, this has definitely been privately funded. And the question for the richest of the rich adventurers out there, if both become available, what do they want to do? Branson's effort, more of a plane, where Jeff Bezos is truly that rocket experience. But when you say, are they going to bring it to the people? It's a small, small, small sliver of the richest, most adventurous people.
Yeah, at $250,000 a pop, that's a pretty small sliver for now, but they hope sometime down the road to change that. Tom Costello, as we approach altitudes now that we humans can relate to at 19,000 feet, what happens next with Virgin Galactic?
Just a few minutes ago, we had the twin sonic booms here on the ground in New Mexico as they come back in now in glider formation, and we expect them to be on the ground within just a few minutes. You can imagine if you're coming in, in a 737, and you can think about your glide slope into the local airport, this is going to be a lot faster than that. So we expect them to be on the ground quicker than you would be if you were in a 737. But this is all what they wanted to prove today, that this technology is here, it's now. It's not only for the Justin Biebers and the Tom Hanks and the Lady Gagas of the world who've spent a lot of money buying these tickets at $250,000, as you suggested, 700 tickets already. But in fact, this is going to be accessible for everybody eventually. At least that's their hope as they bring down the price. I would also tell you that we've now got 7 Land Rovers out there on the tarmac standing by. We've got the fire equipment standing by. That's typical. That's not to suggest there's anything wrong. That's what happens when you have a test vehicle, a test plane, or a spaceship coming in. The fire department is standing by. By the way, a fire department dedicated only to the spaceport, so they don't get a lot of action. I mean, this is kind of their sole customer right now. But a spectacular view as they now come into Spaceport America. Remember that name, Willie. You've been saying it this morning, but this is going to be a name and something we're going to be hearing about increasingly over the coming years as this becomes more and more of a common occurrence. And just hearing the voice here on the ground saying that it's right in front of the sun, which is right overhead of us. I don't see it, but you're getting a better view yourself on the TV with those long-range telescopic lenses.
Yeah. Mike Massimino, we're down to about 11,000 feet of altitude, 243 miles per hour right now.
Hey, Willie,
what does that...
Yep.
You see it? You have eyes on it, Tom?
Willie,
what does
I
it
see
look
him.
like?
He's right over the top of us, Willie, right over the top. And it would, if you didn't know better, you'd think you're looking at just a typical passenger plane with a contrail behind it, just flying right over the top of the spaceport as it comes around and prepares for landing. By the way, we should also make the point that they had a spotter plane, if you will, a chase plane take off shortly after they lifted off an hour ago. Presumably that same chase plane would be on the ground. And by the way, we now see the mothership. Yeah, I think we see Unity in the lead here and the mothership trailing it would look like, which I guess makes sense, right? They're coming in a heck of a lot faster than the mothership can. So it looks like Unity, the spaceship, has the lead as it now approaches the landing strip here on the ground. Looks like it's making a big arc and it's about to come on in for a landing. Gears down and locked, they say. Boy, it's moving fast. It is really buzzing along.
Mike Massimino, what does it feel like on the human body to go through what that crew of 6 just went through? 2 pilots, 4 passengers. As we see those internal cameras, all smiles. It appears everybody's doing well. What does it feel like, though, on your body to go through that?
Well, they're feeling great right now, just out of pure joy, I would imagine. But they've gone through a different experience. You know, they were on 1 gravity. They probably pulled some G's going up to space. They were weightless for a while, so you're floating there, and your vestibular system is now floating as well, so your sense of motion is a little bit distorted. And then you come back down, and the G-forces build up again. So that's what's happened to them, but I think all of that is overridden by just pure joy of an exhilaration of what they went through. They had jobs to do, they needed to do that, but I think there's just the excitement and the happiness that they're experiencing right now is the overriding feeling.
And Tom Costello, it looks like we have a clean, safe touchdown and landing on that runway.
Could not be more perfect here on this beautiful day in New Mexico, and it went just perfectly according to plan. The only delay was it left an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes late because we had winds on the ground. That kind of delayed the fueling this morning. Other than that, this could not have gone any better. It seems to have just gone flawlessly from the moment that they lifted off all the way through, lighting the rocket, accelerating to 56 miles or so above the Earth. I'll be interested to see what the number is. What number did they hit? 56 or 50 miles above the Earth. And as we've said many times, NASA and the Pentagon and the FAA recognize 50 miles as, in fact, the edge of space. Full stop on the runway here at Spaceport America.
What an extraordinary moment. And Colonel Guerin, let's talk about what happens from here. We know next week Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin get their turn in a very different ship, a rocket. We know that Elon Musk, of course, and SpaceX are working on their own orbital spacecraft. What does this moment, what does this day, what does next week put together? What do they mean for the possibilities in the future?
Yeah, I think this historic moment and the historic moments to come are the first baby steps, if you will, to opening up space for everyone. And you know, Stephanie talked about how right now it's just the billionaires, but it's reminiscent of the early days of aviation, where it was a very rare occurrence that somebody flew in an airplane. And I think we're right at the verge or the dawn of a new era of space travel, where flying on a spaceship will become as commonplace as flying on an airplane. And I think, and not just into orbit, but from point A to point B on the planet, where during that flight you are up above the atmosphere. And so I think this is a historic moment, and I think all these steps are leading to that. You know, when you bring in reusability, economies of scale, I think we're going to see those prices come down, and it's going to be more feasible for more people.
The possibilities are thrilling. Colonel Ron Guerin, Mike Massimino, Stephanie Ruhle, and Tom Costello on the ground for us in New Mexico. An exciting morning. Thank you all for being with us. This has been NBC's special coverage of the Virgin Galactic space flight. The coverage continues on MSNBC with more tonight on NBC Nightly News. I'm Willie Geist in New York.
Nose, ear, touchdown. And breaking.